What if the gods you served punished you for being the victim of another's crime? In ancient Greece, around 800 BCE, stories weren't just entertainment. They were lessons about power, justice, and the dangerous whims of the gods. The Greeks understood that divine favor could turn to wrath in an instant. And nowhere is this more tragically illustrated than in the story of Medusa, the mortal Gorgon. Medusa wasn't always a monster. She began as one of three sisters called the Gorgons, but unlike her immortal siblings, Theno and Uriel, whose names mean the strong and the far rover, Medusa was mortal. She was also breathtakingly beautiful. Her golden hair flowed like liquid sunlight, and her eyes sparkled with intelligence and grace. Most importantly, she was a devoted priestess of Pallas Athena, goddess of wisdom and warfare. Athena's temple stood proudly on the Acropolis in Athens, a sacred space where purity and devotion were paramount. Its white marble gleamed under the Aegean sun, and its interior was filled with the scent of olive oil and incense. Medusa served faithfully, maintaining her solemn vow of chastity and dedicating her life to the goddess. Her beauty was renowned throughout Greece, attracting admirers from distant lands, but this beauty would become her downfall. Poseidon, god of the seas and earthquakes, noticed Medusa's extraordinary beauty. A formidable deity, wielder of the trident, and one of the most powerful Olympians, Poseidon was accustomed to taking whatever he desired. When Medusa rejected his advances, staying true to her sacred vows, Poseidon's desire turned to rage and wounded pride. One fateful day, as Medusa prayed alone in Athena's temple, Poseidon appeared. The great doors slammed shut, and a cold, salt-laced wind swept through the inner sanctum. The god of the seas forced himself upon the innocent priestess, violating both her body and the sacred space. The marble floors trembled, and the very walls seemed to weep at this desecration. This was a profound act of hubris, a mortal and divine boundary shattered. When Athena discovered what had happened in her temple, she was furious. But instead of punishing her uncle Poseidon, the goddess turned her wrath upon Medusa. In the twisted logic of divine justice, or perhaps a terrible fear of confrontation with a fellow Olympian, Athena blamed the victim for defiling her sacred space. Athena's punishment was swift and merciless. She transformed Medusa's beautiful golden hair into writhing, venomous serpents. The transformation was excruciating, a searing, physical manifestation of Athena's cold fury. Her lovely eyes became instruments of death, cursed so that anyone who looked directly into them would turn instantly to cold, or lifeless stone. Her smooth skin became scaled and terrible, and bronze wings sprouted from her back. She was no longer the cherished maiden, but a horrifying reflection of the goddess's unforgiving anger. Medusa fled to a remote island, often identified as the desolate rock of Sarpedon. Banished from human society, her sisters, loyal despite everything, accompanied her into exile. There, Medusa lived in isolation, surrounded by the stone statues of those unfortunate enough to have glimpsed her face. Each statue was a constant, haunting reminder of the life she had lost and the power she now unwillingly wielded. Birds that flew too low, sailors who wandered too close, even her own reflection in still water became frozen monuments to her curse. For years, Medusa's anguish echoed across the Mediterranean. She had lost everything: her beauty, her humanity, her purpose. The priestess who once served wisdom and justice had become a symbol of terror. Meanwhile, on the island of Seriphos, a young hero named Perseus faced an impossible task. King Polydectes, who desired Perseus' mother Danae, had sent the young hero on a seemingly suicidal quest to fetch Medusa's head. The king believed Perseus would never return, leaving Danae defenseless. But Perseus was the son of Zeus, and divine blood flowed through his veins. The gods, perhaps feeling some guilt over Medusa's fate, provided him with magical tools. Athena gave him a polished bronze shield that could serve as a mirror. The surface was so bright it would deflect the very light of the curse. Hermes provided winged sandals for swift travel and a diamond-hard, curved sword sharp enough to cut through anything. Hades contributed his helmet of invisibility, the cap of darkness, and the nymphs offered a special pouch that could safely contain Medusa's severed head. Perseus flew across the wine-dark sea to Medusa's island. The shoreline was littered with stone figures, former visitors caught by her deadly gaze. Using Athena's shield as a mirror, Perseus navigated the treacherous approach, seeing only Medusa's reflection. He moved with the calculated caution of a hunter, his gaze fixed on the reversed image in the bronze. He found her sleeping, exhausted by years of isolation and sorrow. Even in slumber, serpents writhed around her head, and her face bore traces of the beauty she once possessed. Perseus felt a moment of pity for this tragic figure, but his mission drove him forward. With one swift stroke of his divine blade, Perseus severed Medusa's head. The air shrieked, and a geyser of blood erupted onto the sand. From her blood sprang Pegasus, the magnificent winged horse, and Chrysaor, a golden warrior. These births suggest that Medusa had been pregnant by Poseidon when she was transformed, adding another layer of profound, final tragedy to her story. The legend states that from the side of the monster, life was born, a testament to Medusa's involuntary connection to the sea god. Perseus carefully placed the head in his magical pouch, its power contained but not destroyed. He flew home, using Medusa's head as a weapon against his enemies. King Polydectes and his supporters were turned to stone when Perseus revealed his prize. Later, Perseus would give the head to Athena, who placed it on her shield, the Aegis, where it remained as a symbol of divine protection, a chilling trophy of the victim's curse, used to defend the perpetrator of her punishment. But Medusa's story doesn't end with her death. Her image became one of the most enduring symbols in Western culture. Ancient Greeks painted her face on shields, carved it into temples, and wore it as protective amulets. They called such images apotropaic, meaning they turned away evil. The deeper meaning of Medusa's tale has evolved over millennia. Ancient audiences might have seen it as a warning about divine justice and the consequences of defying the gods. But modern interpretations often focus on the injustice of victim blaming, the silence of the gods, and the transformation of trauma into power. Medusa represents the woman punished for being assaulted, the victim blamed for her victimization. Yet she also embodies the fierce protective power that can emerge from suffering. Her image guards against evil, suggesting that even the most tragic transformation can serve a greater purpose. In art and literature, Medusa continues to fascinate. Caravaggio painted her severed head with haunting beauty. Poets like Percy Shelley wrote of her with sympathy rather than fear. Her image has been resurrected as a powerful symbol of the female gaze, a look of defiance that is too potent to be ignored. Modern feminists have reclaimed her as a symbol of feminine rage and power. The story of Medusa reminds us that Greek mythology was never simple. These tales explored complex themes of power, justice, transformation, and redemption. They ask difficult questions about divine authority and human suffering that remain relevant today. Medusa's tragedy teaches us that sometimes the greatest monsters are created by the very systems meant to protect us. Her transformation from beautiful priestess to terrifying Gorgon reflects humanity's capacity for both creation and destruction, beauty and horror. In the end, Medusa's legacy transcends her monstrous form. She becomes a guardian, her image protecting others from the very kind of violation she herself endured. From victim to monster to protector, her story embodies the complex journey from trauma to empowerment that resonates across cultures and centuries. Thanks for watching. Let us know in the comments what myth you'd like to learn about next. Please like the video and subscribe for more.